mix for sure. Yeah, I do. I've played quite a bit with him, actually. Not in this event, but I played a lot of cash with him, and online, actually. We play a lot on Borgata Poker, and just in other tournaments in the past at this casino.
He's got a strong reputation from what I hear from other poker players. I played with Travell Thomas just a couple days ago on Poker Night America in a 25-50 no-limit cash game. So, and he was tough and confident in that game. So I think he's, I mean, he splashes around a bit. He's aggressive and will play a lot of hands. But I hear he's got a lot tighter tournament game.
And another Borgata regular in the field is Dan Buzzgon. Fun fact about Dan, this is his 38th cash here at the Borgata.
Wow.
That moves him, into
That's quite impressive.
a tie for third place all-time in Borgata cashes with Will the Thrill Failla and Leonardo Palermo. And he now breaks a tie with Action Bob Wang.
Who's the first?
Wow.
Will's in first?
Well, Will is tied for third. And second,
Will's tied for third.
Second is Mike Dentale.
Okay, that makes sense.
Wait,
Wait.
Mike's got 43
Let me
cashes.
think. Wait, let me think for a
All right,
second.
take a guess on number one. It's a player who's been around since the beginning of Borgata, I would say.
Little man.
I was going to say that,
It's not Little
but
Man.
it can't be. He hasn't played enough.
Mike Sika.
Yeah, Mike Sika, who was just so much fun to play.
He was the best.
Great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately passed away last year. No, it's do you want to know?
All right, go.
It's Howard Wolver.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that.
So it looks like they're about to introduce the players here, and there are a lot of short stacks.
In seventh, we have Rob Saladin pictured here. Rob is from Chester, New York. He's got where'd he go? He's got $6,000 in live earnings, and this is the biggest cash of his career, regardless of where he finishes.
So good for him.
great. It's fun to watch.
Congratulations. And who are we looking at now here? This looks like Dave Zeitlin in 3-seat. He's on a very short stack.
Yeah, he's our
here.
short stack so far.
Oh, he's got some serious earnings though. 1.5 million almost.
Former Borgata champ. He was a winner here, and he has almost 24 final tables in his career. So he's been around for a while. Yeah.
We have a large amount of lifetime earnings so far at this final table between all these players.
For a $450 buy-in event, very large.
Absolutely.
That's, and a big field too.
What do we have? 1.5. Buzzgun is over 1.2, and between him and then Dan Walk, they have about 3 million between the two of them, or between the three of them.
Great. Looking at Sebastian Tejada now, another short stack with just 3 million in chips. We say short, 3 million sounds like a lot, but some of the viewers may not know the big blind here is 240,000. So 3 million chips is really not that many at this stage of things.
No, not at all.
Comparatively, it's not that bad since everyone's kind of short at this point.
Yeah, there are 4 stacks right around the 3 million mark. So it's bad, but it's not dire for those short stacks, I would say.
Right.
Ting is barely in eighth here with 3.1 million, but he's still going to have some work to do. A lot of these guys that are really down there, we're going to see probably some pretty quick action here.
And here's Dan Buzzgon, who we were just talking about before, looking for his first title at the Borgata, despite having this being his 38th cash. He's never actually won an event here. So this
Maybe today would be the day, Dan.
This could be the one for him, yeah.
He finished second in a recent circuit event as well. He's never won a major poker title anywhere, actually. But he's a big winner online. He's won a bunch of stuff online.
He's a great player. I mean, he's always making deep runs in pretty much everything.
Absolutely.
Say it again. I'm sorry.
And here's a shot at our chip leader, Leo Goldberger, with almost 13 million. He has almost a quarter of the chips in play.
Yeah.
How do you think that's gonna wind up playing out? Do you think we're just gonna see a lot from him right off the bat, or do you think he's gonna sit back?
He played really aggressive last night, from what I'm told, into the wee hours in the morning. These guys finished up at about 6 this morning to get to 10-handed. Yeah, so
it was a long day yesterday.
There's going to be a fatigue factor too, but Leo's been playing a ton of hands and taking advantage of his chip situation coming in. So I personally expect that to continue.
And we didn't just skip over Antimysterious on purpose just to not say his name. We were just still.
Mike Antimysterious in the 9 seed is actually in pretty decent shape with 5.5 million chips. So I think it will be he'll be looking to see
as a shot at Travell.
All right, players,
if you're in this
welcome
situation
to
like
the final
Antimysterious is with
table
22
of
blinds,
Event 15,
are you waiting for the short
$1
stacks
million
to bust before you make
guarantee
your move,
for
or are you
Borgata
going to
Winter
try to play
Poker
aggressive and move
Open.
up to the chip lead?
I think if you Wait, if you're 15 big blinds, you said?
Yeah, if you're, well, yeah,
Like if we're
like
buzz gone.
20. If you're buzz gone or if you're Mike, Anthony Serious, yeah.
You know, I think that you kind of just have to wait and see what happens. You know, you have to wait and see if you get a situation. With only 15 big blinds, you know, we take a look at the payouts. The payouts are reasonably flat, you know, until we get to, you know, 3 or 4 handed where you start seeing some big jumps. So I think that if an opportunity arises to get some chips, I would probably take a shot and try to, you know, maybe push someone off of a hand or make a move pre-flop. But if the cards aren't there, then I have no problem sitting back and collecting a few pay jumps and waiting to, you know, for a hand that's a little bit better than that.
Yeah, and game plans can change as table develops too.
Absolutely.
What else is doing, and you might adjust on the fly.
They've all been playing together for 2 days, so they probably have developed some history, so they know they've probably worked out some ranges from their other opponents' opening ranges a little bit too. So
Daniel from Marlton, New
I don't think it
Jersey
changes too much. You're still going to be
million.
3-bet getting it in spots where
seat 8, our chip leader
where
at
you
the
otherwise
moment,
would. I don't think the
Leo
payouts should be
Goldberger
that
from
big a factor.
Brooklyn,
No.
New York, with
We haven't yet mentioned Ben Beam
12.9
in the 1 seed,
million
I
in
don't believe,
chips.
sitting on 6.5
In seat
million
9,
chips.
Michael
Ben
from Massapequa, New
tweeted
York,
on his Twitter account with about 80 players left that he just made the bluff of his life to get to 1 million chips. So that's got to be a great feeling when you
Daniel Watt
make a bluff
from
and succeeds and then you
Boomtown,
run it up to the
New
final
Jersey.
table.
Absolutely.
You know you're going to remember
3
that bluff
million
like
players.
forever.
Thank
now.
you
Absolutely.
for
I'm hoping to
joining us
get
today.
an interview
We are
with
going
Ben
to
and
shut
Yeah, let's
off
find
the
out about
video.
that.
we can get him
About
to
that
tell us
bluff.
about that bluff of life.
It looks like we're about to deal the cards here, I think. Yeah, anteing up.
Now, let's talk a bit about the payouts here. I don't think we've got a graphic of the payouts yet, but they're playing for first place $194,000 and all the way down to 10th place of $11,000.
Massive difference. I mean,
Absolutely.
they're playing for a ton of money here, yeah.
You know, now we talked a little bit about, you know, some players that maybe are looking to fold and move up the money ladder. Do you think, how do you think experience is going to come into play here with some of these guys that have $1.5 million worth of earnings versus, I mean, Rob, for example, in the 2 seed only has $6,000 of live earnings. Do you think we're going to see a little more conservative play from players that haven't been here before?
Right. I mean, if Rob moves up from 10th to 9th, that's another $5,600 because 9th is $16,773, and so that's going to double his that's going to be equal his biggest earning, basically his biggest cash. So, yeah, I mean that might factor into play because he's going to be thinking, wow, if I can just move up, there's 4 short stacks. If I can bust 3 of them, I move up to 7th. All of a sudden, I have 35,000 instead of 11,000. That might be a really big deal. Whereas some of the more experienced players who might have even bought into this tournament for, you know, 9 re-entries or something, might not be as interested in that.
Absolutely.
Looks like we have some action here, guys. What's going on?
Yeah, Leo, being the chip leader, opened up the button with the Jack 9 off. It seems like a pretty standard play. Most of us probably are making that. Dan defending with the King 10 off, I think.
No. King 10 was in the small blind, actually. He just folded.
So we don't know.
we don't
in the
know
small
Dan.
blind.
So that's fine. That's the flop win check.
I think this is going to be a really interesting dynamic. You know, so Dan is in I think 3rd place right now, but he's about 40 big blinds, and he's been here before. He actually had back-to-back 2nd place finishes in the massive Winter Poker Open event, the opening event back in 2012 and 2013, for about $450,000 for those 2 scores combined. Those are like 4,000 person fields, so he knows his way through big fields.
Yeah, this is Dan Walk in the 10 seed we're talking about, and yeah, that's really impressive to get through so many fields with thousands of players in it to get to the final table. This is now his 3rd time. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
I know that from experience, he does not like folding, especially when he has position,
blind, yeah.
especially in the big blind. And he's the chip leader to his right. There's going to be a lot of button versus big blind. That's going to be a really interesting dynamic.
That was kind of
to see it develop.
a classy bluff by Goldberger. We don't know much about him yet as a player, but I mean, he checked back the ace-6 flop instead of just continuation betting there, where who knows, maybe he gets some kind of tricky check raise or something and decided to bluff on the turn
Definitely possible out of
instead.
Dan.
Yeah, I think that's it's smart. It's kind of high level.
Yeah, he also waited to get the 2nd check from Dan to be all the more confident that the bluff would get through.
Right.
So we see our first all-in of the day. Rob moves all-in under the gun with pocket 6s here for about 13 big blinds or so.
I think
That's
Do we like this play, or is it a little ambitious?
It's borderline.
You look like you're not too thrilled about this.
I'm surprised by it. That's a spot where a lot of people are just going to fold. It's close. You know, 10-handed. It's tough to get through that many players.
It's tough to get
I'd
through
say
9 opponents.
I would move
Yeah.
in there, but I am also mildly surprised that Rob, who, as we mentioned, doesn't have a lot of experience, doesn't have a lot of live tournament earnings, would make the same play.
Well, it looks like Rob's not going to be you know, intimidated by the experienced players. He's not going to be intimidated by
Nah,
the
he's
money.
having fun. Look at him.
He instantly, as soon as he looked at his cards, moved all in too. So
Right.
it's good to see some people came to play today.
150, 300 now. We're on 1 hour levels at this time.
The blinds just moved up as well. So the big blind's going to be 300,000 now, and we're definitely going to see some play. This is not going to be a slow final table. We're going to see some action right off the bat here. Guys, tweeted us at Borgata Poker and use the hashtag Borgata Poker Live. Ask us questions, comments, anything that runs through your head while you're watching this stream, and we'll be happy to talk about it. You can tweet at each of us also. I'm at Gags30Poker. Tyler is at Tyler Poker, and Matt is Matt_Matros.
Underscore Matros, you got
Matros.
it. Yes.
Sorry.
No problem.
I already got a couple of messages from our buddy Dan Weinman. I don't know if you guys know him. He's another professional poker player. But let me see if I can get this up here. I asked for some info if on some of these players, if anybody knew it. And Dan Weinman, another professional poker player and golfer, comes back with me about Buzzgone, Dan Buzzgone, Wildman75, who's in this final table.
That's his online name, Wildman. Very well known as that.
He says he's such a big Tiger Woods fan that he broke his own back so that he couldn't golf while Tiger Woods was hurt with a back injury. I'm not sure exactly what that means.
Both of the Borgata regular Dans at this final table are big golfers, both Buzzgone and Locke.
So it looks like Ting's moving in here for $3 million, and all that we know so far is that he has a queen.
I wonder if he knows he has more than a queen.
I would venture to guess he looked at
Oh, ace queen. That's slightly better than just a queen.
I've played with I've played with almost every person at this final table at least once. I played with Leo, the chip leader, on day one of this tournament actually, and he had a large stack then as well.
So Ting, we don't really know if he has a ton of experience, but he does have two massive scores. He has 210,000 and 130,000, I think, both here.
Yep. He won the 2011 Summer Open, the main event there, and then he finished third in the Fall Poker Open in 2013 for the 130,000.
So either he doesn't play a ton but is really good, or he plays a lot and has really high variance styles, so he ends up doing really well when he does well.
I've played with him in a few six maxes. He definitely is an aggressive player, but I would venture that he plays more cash than tournaments.
And he's from Flushing, New York,
okay,
which is
that
where the
makes
Mets
sense.
play, so that's a good thing.
Travell is really fun to have at the table. He's trash talking all the time. He's really funny. He's kind of full of himself, but in a good-natured way. He's great.
I saw him yesterday.
Travell's under the gun and has a 6 in his hand and hasn't folded yet, so I'm going to hope the other card's a 6.
I would have to guess his cards match.
Yeah,
in this situation.
I mean, maybe
I
it's
hope
the
you
ace
guys
of
are
clubs, but other than that, I think it's got to be another 6.
Even that seems like
Well, yeah.
a bit of a loose open.
Yeah,
I
10-handed especially.
I played with he was at the next table over yesterday in this event, and I saw him doing some voodoo magic on his cards, waving his hands over them, trying to entice someone to make a call.
Making David our small blind and Travell our big blind, and tees up players 40,000.
So Travell will pick up that small pot. So what have you guys been doing? Did you guys play this event?
I did. I played. I cashed. I came in 181st,
Okay.
I think.
Sneaking a min cash.
Yeah, which was a negative result for me because I was in for 4 bullets, as we say.
You played
I
multiple
re-entered
flights?
3 times, yeah. Well, I entered 3 times in one flight and 1 time in another
Okay.
flight, yeah. So, bought in for 1,800, cashed out for 1,000. So, you know.
Could have been worse.
Yeah,
Could've been worse.
could have been, yeah.
I know a few guys that were in for 10 or 12
Sure.
bullets. So
Yeah.
I wonder, do we know any well, okay, first I'll answer your question. I was in 3 bullets in this thing. I came
Okay.
pretty close, busted late, like 270, 280, something like that. So pretty
Gags-
close to money, but not.
Gags, did you play? this
I
one?
did. I
Yeah.
finished 81st.
Oh, wow.
Something like
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah, pretty deep
You won the last
yesterday.
longer in the booth then.
I did. Yeah, the booth last longer is mine. You guys owe me some drinks later. And I was only in for 1 bullet.
Oh,
I
sick brag.
swear.
Jeez, 1 bullet.
I late regged and everything. I barely made the early flight yesterday, or no, 2 days ago, and got in like right at the end of the registration. And just blasted my way through.
I didn't even think it was possible to get through in 1 bullet. I gotta tell ya.
This is the first time I've done it, I think. So you're going to ask if we know how many bullets these
Anybody
guys
else is
for.
in, yeah, on the final
I don't
table.
know, but I know that Dan Buzzgon put 9 bullets into event 1
I
here
saw that. I
without
heard that
cashing.
too.
So, I mean, I got to feel good for him now that however many bullets
getting
he put
some
into this
back.
event,
That's
he's
great.
getting something back. Yeah.
He's kind of notorious for putting a lot of bullets into.
He told me he once put in 14 bullets into an event here. So yeah.
That's impressive.
That's strong.
That's quite impressive. Dan Walk does the same thing, but he's more. They're both more of cash game players actually, but you know I think Buzzgon plays all of the events here, whereas Dan only generally plays the bigger ones from what I can gather.
That sounds right. Yeah.
But he's put in a large number as well into some of these events.
We mentioned Mike Dentali earlier. He was on my day 2 table and claimed he was in for 12 bullets in this thing, but I think he did cash. So.
Yeah, he had a lot of chips. I saw him bust on day when I was playing, so I can confirm that it's at least 2, but I don't know about 12.
Yeah, he cashed out about the same time I did, busted out about the same time I did. We were on the cash out line together, and he was mumbling about how he was going to quit poker and how Mike Dentali's such a great guy. And then immediately after
Really
mumbling about
fun
that stuff, he got online to register for the 6 months.
That sounds about right.
Starting at about 5 minutes of registration left. So
The last time that I was in Borgata for the Fall Open, I was talking to Buzzgon, and Buzzgon was telling Tab how he was done with poker. He was going to quit poker as well. And then the following day, he was back for the main event.
So we have a chip leader opening to 2.5x, pretty normal sizing, but he's under the gun +2 with an ace-6.
yeah, and he actually gets robbed to lay down a pretty good hand here, king queen suited, which that's a tough call facing a raise from a big stack in an early position.
Yeah, if you're robbed there, your choices are pretty much move all in or fold, I think.
I agree.
With only 14 big blinds. I honestly don't hate shoving,
No, I wouldn't have needed it.
especially against Leo.
He doesn't know what we know, which is that Leo's opening
This
with
is
a pretty
true.
light hand
This is
here.
true. I would expect Leo to be opening pretty wide,
Yeah.
though.
Me too, but under the gun +2, especially with the ace-6, I don't like it because now when the 10 big blinds shove on you, you're getting a pretty decent price to call, and just firing off 10 big blinds there is
Not what you want to do with
not
ace-6.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, and in 30 minutes, his opponents are going to find out, presumably, that he's been opening with a hand like ace-6 offsuit, so they may be more inclined to shove in. We'll see if what kind of adjustments these guys make as it goes along, if they do have access to the live stream or learn some of the information.
If you were at the final table, would you try to?
I think
Do you
I
have
would.
someone
I've never
watch
been
or-
on a
Sure.
30-minute delayed live stream final table before, but I think I would have my friends watch and let me know what's going on. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I would definitely have I'd have the live stream up in front of me if they let me. I don't know if that's something they're allowed to do, but
I'm not sure.
Boy, 6s is a popular hand at this final table.
And
Yeah.
Rob has them once again.
now the blinds are a little bit bigger, so he has less, and he's a little bit later position, so we definitely like this one. We all like that
This is
stuff.
a very clear shove. Absolutely.
I think that in my experience with like players at the final table and knowing the hole cards and stuff like that, I don't think it actually makes too much of a difference in most situations. Like first off, these guys are sitting there playing with them. I know I was at a final table a couple of years ago where they streamed the hole cards with a delay, and I had someone who was like telling me hands, and honestly, like I was like, I don't even care. Like I know what's going on. Like sometimes there's like one hand where you're like, did he bluff me or did he have it? But other than that, like what's he raising and this and that, you kind of have an idea.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think it can definitely be overrated, both because you do kind of have an idea and because everyone else knows what they've shown you, too. So it doesn't mean they're going to keep playing the same exact way they have played in the past. But I know Martin Jacobson, who won, of course, the main event in the Rio this year, the World Series main event, he said that he actually did widen his range a little when he saw how light everyone was opening. So if there's a huge difference between what you think is going on and what's actually going on, you might adjust. But I agree. If you thought the guy had something like ace-10 plus and turned out he had ace-9, you're not really going to change your game plan.
So that's for sure true in these short stack situations. Ooh, this is an interesting play here. I mean, he's short enough. I like it.
He only has 6 big blinds.
I for sure like it, but you can't expect everyone to be doing this.
No, I'm
stuck to
actually a
final
little
tables.
surprised. I like it too, but I'm a little surprised by the play. Does he have any big stacks behind him? Not really, right? So that definitely helps.
Yeah, he's got Dan in the big blind. He doesn't have that many chips.
Buzzgon does not have
It's a great spot.
And he gets it through. So that's
there
a
you go.
huge score for someone with 6 blinds. He picks up. He almost increases his
He
stack
almost
by like 50%,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It feels like a double up at that point.
That's great.
You're real excited about that.
So what I was trying to say before we saw that, Yeah, just the short stack situations, knowing people's shoving ranges and opening ranges, stuff like that, might not be that big a deal. But if you talk about some deeper stack situations where you're talking about people checking back flops and what they're doing into turns and scare cards and stuff, that now you're starting to get some information that really matters.
Sure.
And like if we could see that. If anyone was watching that highlight of the event 1 and you watch that hand go down with a 5-8 and 5-7 and that massive pot in the first 2 million guarantee, that would be some information I would want to know.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, that's some information knowing that someone's capable of bluffing a river where maybe you didn't think they were.
Right.
But I feel like it, you know, usually at this point when you've played with people for the better part of 2 days, for at least the last couple tables, you have somewhat of an idea of what they're doing.
Well, that's an interesting example, I think, too, Tyler, because the player who just had the 8-5 for the pair of 8s on that river card really gave serious consideration to calling. So he couldn't have been shocked to learn that his opponent was bluffing there, right? I mean, he really, his instincts seemed to think that, okay, I really think this very mediocre hand might actually be good. But you're right, to have the confirmation is certainly helpful, too.
Yeah. I mean, also knowing, like, you know that Ryan guy is capable of 3-betting light, but 5-8 off is lighter than
oh yeah,
you would have
that's
thought.
right, absolutely. Here's a raise with ace-8 suited from Ben Beam, who is on a decent stack compared to some of the other players. And he actually gets an immediate fold with king-queen offsuit from Dave Zeitlin on the short stack.
That was a good catch there.
Dan and Leo are both out, and Ben
What can you do there as Dave, though? You know, that's a really hard spot.
Yeah, I mean, you know you're getting called. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to, or I should say you don't know, but you should assume you're getting called.
You're getting
if you're
called
gonna
quite
shove in.
often.
Yeah, with nine blinds is roughly what he has, we think.
Yeah.
So
Depends
basically,
on what you think.
you got to
of
say
that.
I'm willing to take king-queen against the opening range here and knowing I'm getting called. And, you know, with the pay jumps the way they are, I think you're right, Gags. I don't think there's much he can do because it's just too much equity he's giving up by the possibility of folding his way up a few spots, I think.
more than happy to get you a cocktail wager.
I think that every once in a while you end up in a dominating position, and sometimes the opener will find a fold there. It's in live poker, it's different than just, you know, it's 9 big blind reshove, I'm always calling. It's
Sure, I mean, he
people
might have
just
opened
find a
with a
fold.
piece of junk, too. I mean, you never know. So
Yeah.
if he happened to have decided, oh, this is a spot I can steal with 9-5 offsuit or something, you've got a fold there. But you certainly couldn't expect a fold.
right.
But yes, it's not completely out of the question.
I really am interested to see play develop as they get shorter handed. So, I mean, most of these guys seem really comfortable at this table, and I think we're going to see some pretty intense action if certain guys get short-handed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, the comfort level, I mean, they're all laughing, they seem jovial.
The side of the table with the 2 Dans and Leo seems very relaxed.
Yep.
Ting on his short stack had a suited king in the cutoff there, I think, and he just threw it immediately into the muck, which I guess is a little surprising, but he does have a big stack in the small blind who could call a lot lighter than some of the other players, so an interesting decision. Now Dan with ace-3 offsuit here, and this is what I would have expected with his 13 blind stack here on the button. You guys agree?
Yeah, he's not going to do much else here, and you know, we saw him counting his stack out to make sure what he has is correct, what he thinks he has is accurate. And I think as soon as Dan looks at his hands, he knows that he's going to go all in there.
Yeah.
Dan's been here before, he knows what to shove.
He wants to make sure he doesn't have 18 or 19 blinds. It's not too big of a shove maybe, but once he knows exactly what his stack is, he's pretty confident in the
Look at
play.
these impressive graphics.
Great
from the
graphic
Borgata
by our
here.
crew here, yes, absolutely.
So here we're going to go around the table. Ben Beam sitting on 25 bigs in the 1 seat.
Rob Saladin on the short stack here.
He's picked up a few
blinds.
chips since we started.
Yes, that's true.
Silent's down to 9, so he's in the shove or fold mode for sure.
Absolutely. Travell's doing okay, actually, relative to the field here with 22 blinds. I mean, that's decent shape at this point of the.
Yeah, Terrell has 2 WSOP circuit rings as well. He's
Sebastian's
another one.
Getting
been
real
here
short
before.
here. Sorry to talk over you there.
No,
Ken.
that's okay. That's okay.
Now, Ting, if he's a cash game player, this 10 big blind is going to make him real uncomfortable. But he did just fold that king suited, which was kind of impressive.
Dan just picked up those 3 blinds by shoving on the button, so he's up to 16.
There's the man.
He's the man to be right now for sure. He's not going to make it easy for anyone to catch him.
I don't think we've seen much from Michael yet, but he's sitting there with his 15 blinds.
I didn't realize Dan had so many chips. That's a decent amount to play too. So he can defend his big and
Yeah,
open
he
a
had
little
close to
wider and
40
stuff.
bigs to start the day before blinds went up.
Are you surprised that Leo hasn't been even more aggressive to this point?
I mean, we've seen him play like 3 hands already out of the, what, maybe 8, 9 we've
Yeah.
been dealt so
And
far.
some of them were
So
open in front of him if it wasn't. So he did. I
Sure.
think he's taken almost every opportunity.
Yeah, and some of the hands he's played have been loose as well. So I think you're right in that. Sometimes people expect chip leaders to play literally every hand, and that's just not realistic most of the time. I mean, there are certain players who will do it, but you can play pretty loose without playing close to every hand.
I think he's going to open like a large percentage of the time that it folds to him. Like very
Look at
large.
Trevel's open here.
Wow. +3.
And he will
Did
lay
Walk
down
just
as
fold
well.
Queen 10
No,
suited in the
Walk
big
folded
blind?
King 3 out of the
So
big.
we'll win this pot.
Yeah, that's a bit of an aggressive open by Travell. I think that it's kind of smart on one hand because people are playing pretty tight. They're 10-handed, and a lot of stacks are pretty much just going all in or folding. So his hand is almost sort of irrelevant because if he raises and somebody goes all in, he's going to fold. If he has King 8 or if he has King Queen, he's going to fold as well. But on the other hand, if it doesn't work, he's just lost a big chunk of his stack. He only has about 20 bigs to start the hand, so it's definitely a little risky. But if he can get that to work a few times, he's going to be up there in chips and definitely have a shot to make a move here.
Yeah, I agree. That's a strong play. And I think you make a good point, Gax, which is that there hasn't been a ton of flatting here. It's pretty much been someone raises, all right, I'm going to shove or I'm going to fold.
No, I mean, look at
We've
these
seen
stacks right
almost
here.
no post-flop play. So, yeah, you're right. He can just kind of raise and just know that he's never going to have to continue with his hand.
When the guy in 5th only has 15 big blinds, we're not going to see a whole lot of post-flop play.
Absolutely.
You know, not until we're much shorter-handed, with the rare exception of maybe a a blind versus blind or button versus big blind type of situation like we saw already.
Well, that's kind of a credit to the skill level of the players here. They all understand that they're supposed to be shoving or folding or raising or folding. There's not limping going on or flatting, just hoping to see a flop and that kind of stuff, which in a $450 buy-in tournament with 2,800 players, you can get some of that sometimes.
This is definitely not an easy table for this type of event.
And here's the first really big hand we've seen at this final table. 2 jacks in the cutoff from our chip leader. We'll
And it
see if
comes
we get
from
some
Leo.
action. Yeah. 7-6 suited in the button just went into the muck.
And I think we're going to see a 3-bet from Dan here.
You think you are?
Yeah, for sure.
He does have a 3-bet face on right now.
He does have his 3-bet face on.
You called that one, Gax.
Well,
oh, he's got 8-5 seated. This is definitely a 3-bet right here.
Like I said, he's a quite aggressive player, and he knows that Leo is opening very, very wide from the cutoff. I think this 3-bet is honestly going to work a large percentage of the time. I think he just got really unlucky that Leo actually has a hand here.
Do we know anything about Leo's play as far as, let's say Leo had a hand like Ace-10 here? Is
Look
he
at this,
the type that
Leo's-
might just rip it in?
I think so.
Okay.
He's pretty aggressive, and he doesn't like being pushed around either.
Leo doesn't shove in after Dan 3-bet to a quarter of his chips. He just smooth calls and takes a flop to try to trap.
Oh,
And
and Dan has
they're
equity.
gonna get it in on this flop, I think.
Oh,
I mean, he's only got a little more than a pot-sized bet in front of him. I got to think he's just going to ship this.
I
What do
think
you-
he is going to shove.
Is Leo really trapping when he flats
wait.
there?
I
How does-
assume so, right?
I don't
I
know.
mean, he's only he's
I'm not sure, honestly, either.
Wow.
You know, I don't know. I don't really know why Leo didn't just go all in pre-flop. That seems like a much easier way, a much more standard way to play this hand.
He doesn't
You have
go.
a top 3% hand, just get it in versus a wide range.
I'm saying he didn't get it in this flop either. So now the question is, does Dan fire the second barrel here? He only bet 1.3 million instead of shoving for a pot-sized bet on the flop. Now he's only got about 4.5 million in front of him, and he is going to bet. And this has at least a chance to work here. I don't know if it will, but Leo certainly hasn't snap called him.
See, this is showing that Leo wasn't really trapping pre-flop. He was
Yeah.
calling to make sure he got a safe flop. He didn't want to get that many
That's
chips in.
pretty dangerous with 2 jacks. You're going to flop an overcard an enormous percentage of the time. I mean, nearly,
Yeah,
most of the time.
I'm sure we all agree we don't like that.
I mean, this is the exact reason why I think calling against a player like Dan is just not going to work out too well, because he's going to put you to a really tough test.
Then again, he may end up busting him here. So
That's true.
we'll see.
That's true. You know, but I mean, just look at how pained Leo is.
Wow, he threw it away. Unbelievable.
What a play by Dan.
That's a pretty
I
remarkable.
mean, I
hand
wouldn't
we've
make
had
that
here.
second barrel if I was Dan, unless I thought that Leo was capable of peeling the flop with ace high. If he had any pair bigger than 7s, I would for sure not give that second barrel.
I would honestly think he is. I
He
don't.
is
I don't
peeling
think.
with
He's,
ace
I
high
don't. If he
sometimes?
is a hand like ace jack, I don't think he's folding there.
Okay, see
on the
that's
flop.
if those kind of hands, then I like the double barrel if you think he is going to peel.
I mean, unless the money really is, you know, kind of like getting to him a bit. I mean, Leo only has $30,000 in live tournament earnings. Like I said, I played with him on day one, and he was talking a big game. I've seen him at the Borgata before. He's definitely been here before. He plays a lot, you know, and he doesn't seem like the type of guy that likes to get pushed around, especially by players that he knows to be aggressive.
Right.
So I can't imagine he's going to let Dan just push him around all day, but playing that hand, I don't know.
That was pretty interesting. I was pretty surprised.
Do you think the 7 pairing on the turn helped Dan get his bluff there, or do you think it didn't really matter very much?
Honestly, it's like got to be a bad card for Dan. It's a better card for Leo than it is for Dan.
Yeah.
You know, you can't imagine that Dan is going to have too many 7s in his 3-betting range. I mean, if he 3-bet 8-5, maybe he 3-bets 8-7 or 7-5.
But he's probably not thinking he has 8-5 or 8-7 the way he played.
Exactly.
The hand, he certainly wasn't thinking.
Exactly.
It's his perceived range, though. Leo didn't like the 7. I mean, that's another card that can beat him now. So I actually think it ends up being a good card for him, but it shouldn't be.
Right.
That hand is so incredibly important in the scope of what's going to happen in this tournament now, especially with a player like Dan, who's so aggressive and who's so experienced that he wins a big pot like that, versus if Leo shoves pre-flop and he loses, not only does he lose the chips, but he loses a lot of momentum. His first 3-bet doesn't get through, and he really has to feel back on his heels. He's handcuffed with the stack size, but now he's got a bunch more chips, and Leo's the one who feels back on his heels in Dana's position. So I think that dynamic is really going to shift, and I really have, you know, I think we're going to see big things from Dan come from the rest of this
I
table.
think so too.
Dan Walk could be a force now. Don't count out Dan Buzzgone either. I think he's.
No, I mean, no one's counted out yet at this point.
But yes, you're right. That's a huge swing for Dan Walk. I mean, by all rights, he should have. Well, I shouldn't say should have, but there were a lot of results there where he either busts or loses a good chunk of his chips, and instead of either of those things, he's now near the chip lead.
Yeah, and that's what happens at, you know, when this average stack just isn't that deep.
Right.
Every pot is really, really big, and that's why any mistake that you make or, you know, suboptimal play that you make is really, really
What
amplified.
happened there? By the way, I said near the chip lead. Dan Walk probably is our chip lead.
He must be.
Travell just flat the open with ace-king suited?
Yeah, so Travell just called out of the big, and okay, so Leo opened and Travell just called out of the big, and Travell has about 7 million. I want to say the graphic there is definitely wrong.
Yes.
So you're a little surprised to see this. Would you? I would guess you would have done something different pre-flop with this hand.
Yep, I would have 3-bet, and if you get a fold, fine. If you have to get it in, fine. I mean, that's just a great hand. You're dominating so often. And you might get 8s to fold.
I think Leo has a really hard time calling with 2 8s if Travell just shoves pre-flop. So Leo c-bets this flop, and I don't think we're going to see Travell fold. You know, ace-king high certainly could be the best hand here.
He's got backdoor
hard
hearts,
draw.
yeah, backdoor Broadway draw, yeah.
And despite Leo losing that last hand, I think Travell knows that he's still going to be pretty aggressive here. Would not surprise me if Travell comes out with a raise here. That would probably not be my first option, but it looks like he's considering it. And being the type of player that he is, I think that's definitely in his range here, in his range of moves. I'd be very surprised if he folds this flop.
Looks like he's going to.
Yeah, he doesn't look to. His body language.
This is another argument for maybe 3-betting pre-flop, because you don't end up in these situations after the flop by flatting too. I mean, if you have a good plan for this, it's one thing, but
yeah, I mean, Leo could have easily had, you know, ace-6 offsuit again, just like he did the last 2 times ago when he opened.
Do you guys consider calling with ace-king there?
I would not have. You talking about pre-flop or on the flop?
No, pre-flop, yeah. Do you consider just flatting?
I gotta say, I think I might. The effective stack size was what, about 30 blinds? Or is it?
No, it was less.
It was less.
It's like 24.
24. Okay,
Yeah.
with 24, I think I'm probably gonna get it in. But if I'm gonna 3-bet, I'm just gonna ship it. That was
Yeah,
what you're
I think
saying, right?
shoving is the better
So
play.
I think shoving is probably ideal. If it had been a slightly deeper, I wouldn't hate it, because
Yeah, I mean, if I had Dan block stack in the big blind there, and we were both 40, 50 bigs deep, you know, flatting is definitely an option.
Yeah, with everyone.
You know, you don't want to get it all in
game,
pre-flop and get 10th when all these guys have way less
the
than you.
chip count update here. It looks like Dan Walk
That's
and
awesome.
Leo now basically tied, and
It
everyone
has
else pretty
Dan.
short.
It shows Dan in the lead, even though the number was less. But let's call them co-chip leaders at this
Yes.
point.
Looks at his cards and immediately reaches for chip 650. Sebastian will fold.
So Travell opens under the gun here with King Queen offsuit. You guys like it?
I think it's fine. You know, like I said, everyone's playing pretty tight at this table for the most part. But
Whoa.
Leo has 8s again somehow, and he is flatting from middle position.
I think that's fine. That's an interesting spot to be in, really.
with King Queen.
In both of them.
In
the
both, I
eights,
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there's much you can do with the 2/8 other than just call. You know, you can maybe make an argument for even folding.
Yeah, I was going to say fold is an option. I probably wouldn't. But
Yeah, Travell's been opening quite a bit. He opened a number of pots already so far.
Yeah, I think seeing Travell having opened so many times, I would probably 3-bet the 8s there. The problem is, what do you do if he shoves? And you're going to be stuck calling with Travell's stack size, so it's a little bit risky with 10 players still left, but I probably still would have done it and worry about that when it happens because, I mean, I've seen Travell open a lot of hands at this point, and 2/8 is a very big hand.
And
Yeah,
Leo's
it's
going to
tough
like
to
this
play.
flop.
4 of clubs, 10 of hearts,
There's an 8 right in the window there for Leo. And let's see how he plays this set now. There are 2 clubs out there, so he may be a little afraid of Travell having some sort of flush draw or something like that.
He's
But
going to just call right away.
I think this is by far the better play.
Yeah, I
me
agree.
too.
You know, if you raise here, you really force Travell to have a really big pair to continue. And now you give him a chance to bluff on some turn cards or pick up equity.
Probably not going to bluff that turn card. That seems to line up with the kind of range Leo should have here. You guys agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know,
And Leo's going to be a little nervous about slow playing now. He's going to have to get some.
Yeah, he's going to have to bet here.
yeah, he's got to start putting some money in. I mean, even if Travell has a hand like Jacks or something like that,
And this bet will win the
he may
pot,
slow down.
unless Travell does something really aggressive. This should get through.
1.3 million.
This is a pretty bad board for his hand.
Absolutely.
So I would imagine he just folds here quite a bit. It's funny, there's a lot of guys at this table who don't like to fold and don't like to get bluffed.
I don't like to fold or get
No,
bluffed.
neither do I,
Yeah.
but some guys really don't
Yeah,
like
that's
it.
true.
And I think 2 of them are playing this pot right now, so it wouldn't shock me if we could see some fireworks in hands that we're not always going to expect it.
Travell's going to be very unhappy if he semi-bluffs here with 0% equity. I'll say that.
I think Travell is the kind of guy that does go with a read. Like, he's really into physical tells and stares people down a lot. And he's really into that part of the game, psychology and messing with people's heads with talking and stuff like that. So he can get in a spot like this where he just decides that Leo doesn't have it and just rip over him. I mean, maybe his feel led him there to not do that, but I think he does have that in his game.
Hard to make that play with, you know, like Matt said, 0% equity too. He doesn't
Right.
know he has 0%
Right, but
equity,
he knows he
obviously,
has
but
just
easily
2
could.
over
he
cards.
knows
and
he
that's
has
it.
hardly any equity, yeah.
No gut shot, no nothing.
So
just
with
2
that
over
pot,
cards.
Leo definitely moves back into the chip lead with over 14 million now.
He weathered that storm after that Jack's hand pretty nicely, winning 2 pots with 2/8.
Making 3 of a kind, making
That
a set
helps.
there really
That definitely helps.
helps. And you know,
33 minutes remaining.
Tyler was talking about, you know, psychology and stuff like that, and I think one of the biggest things is just your emotions and what happens at the table. Like I said, Leo lost that big pot to Dan, and I was saying, oh, Dan's going to basically run him over now, but making a big hand and then winning a pot back just instantly can boost your confidence again. And
Yeah.
I think we're going to see Leo right back on the horse and just keep going what he was doing at the beginning of the table and raise a bunch of hands and try to win some more pots.
And now Dan Walk has some firepower behind him to mix it up with him, which will be great.
Well, our short stack has woken up with 2 kings here. And
Not the shortest. How much does he have?
He's
About
not the
4 points.
shortest.
not the shortest, but he's sitting on what is it?
Almost 15, like 13 bigs.
Yeah.
Yeah, David in the 3 seed is still our short stack with only about 7 bigs or
And
so.
this might be a problem for him.
Oof, that's an interesting spot.
You think David's going to go with the 2 3s here?
I don't know.
No idea.
He makes
No,
a
he
great laydown.
You know, I don't think there's much you can do there with 2 3s. It's one of those hands that, you know, when you first look at your hand, you're like, oh, I got a pair, I can go
Yes,
all in. But
exactly.
then somebody raises, and you're like, yeah, 2 3s, you know, you're probably going to get called. You're really hoping for a flip. And sometimes with a short stack, you don't mind, you know, just getting it in and hoping for a flip. But in this situation, when you have money to move up, if somebody busts, I don't hate folding.
Let's give
No.
Dave, I don't either, but let's give Dave credit for thinking that through because as you say, I mean, he's been sitting there waiting for a hand this whole time and he finally gets 2 3s and you think, okay, there's a late-ish raiser, not too late, but a middle position raiser. I'm just going to take this hand and try to win my flip, but he thought about it at another level and realized that, well, I can have a chance to win a pot without having to win a showdown.
Absolutely.
I don't have to get involved here.
If you
And
can-
I can maybe move up a few spots because these guys are playing pots against each other.
If
So
you can find a little bit of fold equity to add to your most likely flipping, then you can go ahead and do it. So if you
Much
have
better
10 to
situation.
15 bigs, maybe it's okay to go for it. But when he's sitting at 7 to 10, it's pretty tough.
Well, David's not. This isn't David's first rodeo either. He's got over 70 lifetime cashes, and he's a circuit ring and a couple other really big final tables, and to give him $1.5 million in lifetime earnings. So he's been here before. He knows what he's doing.
Dan will raise to 600,000.
Dan makes a min-raise here with ace-8 suited. I think that we all would have expected that.
Now that Dan has some chips, you're gonna for sure see some more of these opens.
And we know Travell doesn't like to fold, so he's contemplating.
What is he
a
down to,
move
about
here.
4.5?
Yeah, he's only got about 15 blinds here, so he may be thinking of shoving with whatever he has. It actually looks like he's going to flat.
Yeah, I don't think he's not the typical tournament professional. He plays a lot of cash games also, so getting a great price in the big blind. I'm not sure if he considers his 15 big blind stack.
What kind of range do you put him on here? Middle cards, middle pairs kind of thing? I mean, I don't give him ace, king, ace, queen kind of.
Yeah, Broadway cards.
Well, he flat ace king before, so
yeah.
Well, what a flop for
I see
Dan.
It's a little different. Yeah, so Dan flops the nuts.
And Dan just assumes that the 9 and the jack kind of hit Travell's range here with the Broadway cards, which is what I said earlier.
Middle cards,
and so he just
absolutely.
goes ahead and goes right out and bets it.
Makes a
It
very
does
small
hit it.
bet of only
Oh, there it is.
400,000.
this
I
could be trouble for Travell. This is a really good.
I mean, we don't know
Card
what
for
Travell
Travell.
has, but it looks like he hit this board.
Yeah.
We
Absolutely.
don't really know.
That's
I
in the
mean,
middle
let's
of
think
his
this through
range.
for a second. Travell has hands like ace jack, queen, king queen, queen 10. All of those hands are just not folding.
And all of them would have called that small
Yeah.
$400,000 bet on the flop.
Exactly.
9, 9, 10.
He could also easily just have a hand like, king queen with one heart, and now he makes a
Absolutely.
straight.
That's, I think, a good part of his range, actually.
It's funny, we can't see the whole cards, and we're already kind of spelling the end for Travell here. Do you expect him to have a set here very often?
Travell?
Yeah.
It's hard to check call 400,000 and all hearts flop with a set, I think. He could have a set of 10s.
Yeah, I think
I
tens might
I
make
think
sense.
he would have moved it in with those hands, but I
Pre-flop,
also
you would
would have
think,
thought he
yeah.
did with ace king, so I'm not sure.
I mean,
Nines,
most tournament players
the
would
fours
move in
maybe.
or fold pre-flop with whatever they were playing with 15 blinds there, I would think.
Right.
So it's we're trying to guess at what alteration. And we all seem to agree that king queen is like one of the more likely.
It could for sure be
Yeah.
in there.
King jack could be, with or without the king of hearts. I think he might have just raised the flop with king jack with the king of hearts.
It's definitely possible he does not have a heart, though.
Oh yeah. Queen jack. Feels like about a queen jack to me. I don't know.
Now, here you're talking about Travell, kind of trying to feel his opponent up, and he's chatting up Dan quite a bit here.
I wonder if he's suspicious of that mini bet on the flop.
Yeah, Dan bet less than he raised you pre-flop on the flop.
Yeah. And the pre-flop raise was minimum, so.
Yeah, it's pretty small. I don't think Dan's going to be too rattled by this table talk, though. He's a high-stakes cash regular here at the Borgata, and I'm sure that he's faced quite a bit of this in his past.
Also, he has the nuts, so he's probably a little comfortable.
Well, that can be a tell sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
If he's too comfortable. And it looks like Travell's going to lay it down.
Travell
Yeah,
has
he does.
ace queen. Wow. That is a bigger hand than I was giving him. That, for pre-flop, that is.
Wow, what a sneaky show by
Ace
Dan.
queen.
Do you see
Yeah,
Dan
it
show
just
only
shows
the
him
ace of hearts?
right. That's always, I shouldn't say it's always the nuts, but that's often means he has the other one, right?
From
I mean,
him, maybe, but
Like, when Travell, I guess Travell didn't show ace queen, but when Travell sees the ace of hearts and he folded ace queen, he has to know that he was way behind. There's just,
the 9-10 jack
yeah,
were
I
all
mean,
out
there's
there.
no
and
other
a king. And
like cards that Dan could have that match up with that ace of hearts that did not have Travell in bad shape. Or do you think of Travell's flop call with ace queen with no heart?
If you hate folding, it's hard to fold for 400,000.
tiny.
I suppose.
I mean, we would have all been all in pre-flop.
I would have
with
shoved
that
pre-flop with that
hand.
hand.
Me
Yeah.
too.
But if you make it to that flop with that hand, I don't think I'm just going to check and fold for 400,000. I want to see if that was a trap kind of bet with a monster like it was, or if it was just him trying to get away with a steal of the pot for almost, for a very low price.
I wouldn't have been planning on checking and folding, but once that flop came out, I think I would have just checked.
I think I would fold even to the small bet. I don't think that's a board that Dan's gonna
So you
be
guys,
betting too wide.
I
Like,
hate folding more than you guys do.
Well, we just think that even if you call on the turn, you're gonna have
Oh,
another
the
tough
turn.
decision.
You know, the
So-
turn is going to be tough if he fires again. I mean, you're either hoping to hit something or you're hoping he shuts down, and you're hoping that will
We
happen
don't think
often
Dan
enough
shuts
for
down.
400,000.
Yeah, we don't think Dan shuts down often enough.
Yeah, I haven't played with him enough. I mean, you know, my background's in limit poker, and we limit players don't like to fold hands. So.
I mean, even though it's only 400,000, it represents 10% of his stack size. That's
a good point, yeah.
not a small percentage.
Yeah.
So we saw on the graphic there that that Travell is the former Six Max champion. He won the Spring Poker Open Six Max event back in 2012. We have a lot of Six Max experts apparently in this field because David
That's
got
great.
second in a WSOP Six Max event. We see Travell won the Six Max event here. Dan Walk won the Six Max event here also. And I believe Buzzgun final tabled the Six Max event here last
That
series.
sounds right, yeah.
So definitely a lot of shorthanded players that at least enjoy playing shorthanded and have done pretty well at it. So definitely will be fun to see what happens.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, Gags, we can expect a lot of fireworks when we start knocking out players. But for now, it's a lot of, or actually, we would think it'd be even more shoving pre-flop and putting players to decision. But some of these guys, Travell especially, have been willing to flat instead of 3-bet, and it's made for some interesting situations like that last hand we saw.
Dan, you are our big blind. Don't fold your cards. Good.
A little shot of somebody's rail up there.
Dan trying to fold out of the big blind before setting action apparently.
Leo with 2 5s under the gun. I think he's going to open his hand.
I would bet a lot of money on it
You missed makeup.
If you were a betting man.
if I was.
Leo will raise 650,000.
So Leo's made it 650 now. We saw him open in 750 before.
Cocktails have arrived via our Borgata
Do you think there's a reason he lowered his raise sizing?
Michael folds and Dan is down.
Well, there's a theory. Wow, Ace Queen just goes into the muck from Dan Walk there, 2 seats to his left. That's a little interesting.
That's really surprising.
Yeah.
That seems
There's
like
a
it could've been
school of
graph
thought that says
mistake.
you should make smaller raises in earlier position because there's a bigger chance you're going to run into a big hand, and so you minimize your losses and you still look strong because you open from early position. So I don't know if that's what he's thinking or not, but that's one
Well,
possibility.
there's another school of thought that you should raise bigger from early position.
There is, in fact, that's
Because you have a stronger range. You don't play as many hands, and when you're coming in, you play good hands, so you should make it bigger.
Yeah, there's differing schools of thought.
So-
for sure.
Absolutely. So I like to vary based on the table situation, and with this many short stacks, all my opens are going to be minimum because I don't want to have to face the. If you make it minimum, you can fold to the 11 or 12 big blind reship. If you make it 4x, I mean that's not in the realm of possibility, but if you do, then you can't fold to even 12 or 15 big blinds. So
Yeah, most players are opening min at this table. He's the only. Leo's actually the only one that I think is opened larger than that so far. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see why he.
So here's a
changes
reminder of
sizing
what
again.
they're playing for out here. Again, everyone's gunning for that 194,500 for first place, but with all these short stacks here, it's very plausible in these players' minds they can get from 11,000 to 46,000 pretty easily just by waiting around. So it's a tough decision for a lot of these guys who are not among the chip leaders about how aggressively they want to go after this. In fact, we just saw Dan Walk throw away Ace Queen to an under the gun open from Leo. And
What do
so
you think about that?
I don't hate it quite. I honestly don't hate it because Leo is not playing quite as loose as I think I had expected him to. And if he has the kind of under the gun range that we would expect, Ace Queen is not like it has massive equity against.
Yeah, but he's still like in a tough spot with a lot of hands. I mean, you can even just 3-bet fold there.
that's
Oh,
probably
if you
what I was
3-bet, you should be 3-bet folding there.
I
in my
mean,
opinion. Yeah.
You know, and honestly.